Milwaukee is changing the game right now when it comes to these new sanders that they're releasing. This sander right here blew me away in several different ways. Can't wait to show you about the crazy features this sander has. Let's go. Okay, so what you're going to get in the box when you purchase the sander is you're going to get the tool itself. You're going to get a dust bag. Milwaukee claims that you get like 80 or 90% dust collection just if you have this dust bag. You're going to get this little holster. This is cool. You can clip this on a belt and the sander clips right in there. You can also, and what I think I'm going to do with this is you can mount this to a workbench. There's a little like nail or screw hole for that. You're also going to get this dust adapter in the kit, and then you're going to get 9 sanding pads. You're also going to get this protective pad, okay? So this is not sandpaper. This is actually something that you can put onto your 3-inch disc that's going to be protective. And then you're also going to get this little contour pad. Now, I will say that you're not going to get a battery in the package, at least the ones that are available right now on Home Depot. What I'm using is a M12 XC 3.0 battery for all the tests here, and I'll leave those down in the description, linked up if you want to pick up some of those batteries. Let me go over the features of this sander. It's got a variable speed trigger, so if you pull it down a little bit, very slow, and then to full speed, and then right above your trigger, you have a trigger lock. I will say that the trigger lock, that's something that, if you're not using a toggle switch sander, if you're using a trigger style sander, you've got to have a blade lock, in my opinion. And this obviously does have that. Moving on down, you've got an LED light. This is a really nice LED light. And a cool feature is you can turn this light on or off independent of the trigger. I'm also going to say that you've got your variable speed. You've got speeds 1, 2, 3, and 4. So your trigger is variable speed, but you can also set the range of that trigger to be different settings. Right here above the battery, you're going to get that classic M12 fuel gauge, or it tells you how much battery charge is in your battery. If you've seen any of my videos, you know how I feel about the M12 battery fuel gauge system. I don't like it as much as I like the M18 fuel gauge, because the M18 fuel gauge is on the battery itself. You don't have to plug it into a tool. For this tool, you've got to, plug it in to see how much charge you have left. I've got half battery right here. So, not a huge deal, but just something that I like to point out in these videos. Then, of course, right below your fuel gauge, you have your dust collection port. Now, I want to point out that some of these new Milwaukee sanders that they've been coming out with, they don't have any kind of dust collection. What I love about this detail sander is it does have dust collection. That's huge. For me, I do a lot of my woodworking at night, which means I'm in my garage. I don't want to go out in my yard in the middle of the night. My neighbors would think I'm crazy. Now, with this, you get this awesome dust collection adapter right here. This is really great. They call this a universal adapter. And at first, I wasn't impressed with this. My main contraption when it comes to dust collection, let me show you. This is the CT MIDI 1 from Festool, and so this is what I like to hook up all of my sanders to. At first, I thought that this would not connect with the little universal mount, because it is very, very snug. But if you really put some pressure on this Festool hose will slip into the inside of this universal connector, and then, of course, it just clips on right here. It's got this nice latch, and so this works great. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, so far, there's nothing in my shop that I've tried to connect to this connector that hasn't connected with it. So I think that's really, really great. Really great feature. And I will say, when I was sanding with this hooked up to my Festool dust extractor, there was like zero dust. Very impressive. Just did a great job there. By the way, if you're looking for a dust extractor, I'm telling you, this is my first Festool tool that I've ever purchased, and did not let me down. This thing is a beast. Okay, so the next feature of this sander that I want to point out is this protective pad. What this pad does, you can apply this, lining up all the dust collection holes to your sanding disc, and then you can take your sandpaper and apply it here. What this extra layer is going to do is provide a little bit of protection for your actual sanding pad that's connected to your tool. This is really important. I learned this really quickly because what I use this sander for, really the primary reason why I purchased this sander, is to finish live edge lumber. And just the nature of live edge lumber, sometimes there's those little spikes, those little knots. Sometimes it's more prone to tear into your sandpaper, and it can even tear up your sanding pad. Having this as a little extra barrier is very, very nice. And so you can just replace this little sanding extension versus your entire pad on your tool. I've never seen that on another sander. Maybe other sanders on the market have that feature. I've just never seen it. Another attachment, if you will, that you're going to get with this sander is this little contour pad. Now this is essentially going to work the same way. You're going to put it on your sanding pad, then you're going to apply your sandpaper. White connects to your sanding pad, black Velcro always connects to your sandpaper. You can see right here that, just use my finger as an example, what this sandpaper is doing when I have this contour pad installed is it's forming to the shape of whatever it's pressed up against. Once again, for live edge sanding, this is massive. This is going to help you get much more detailed sanding much easier just by having this one attachment. So with no further chit chat, let's fire this thing up, see how it performs, and I'll give you my overall thoughts after this. The first test I put the sander through is I wanted to just see how really the overall performance of the sander is. So I put some 80 grit sandpaper on here, left it on speed 3, locked up the trigger, and I sanded in grain on this oak cut off of a mantle that I finished a while back just to kind of see how it would perform. This is not the tool that I would even use for this job. I'm kind of putting it through a stress test here, and held up really well. Battery life was great. It only used about 25% of my battery. That was after about 3.5 minutes of sanding was the time that I put on this. Once again, this is in grain, so it's going to be a little bit more dense wood. And this was just doing a great job. And then also too, this dust bag really did catch a lot of the dust. That really impressed me. This is creating some pretty fine dust, and I thought that I would see more. There's some right here around the bottom of this piece of wood, but really not a lot. So when Milwaukee says this catches like 80 or 90% of the dust, might be onto something. So dust bag held up very, very nicely. The second test that I put this sander through is I did a little sanding on this black walnut slab that I have that maybe one day will be a live edge table. And once again, it had 80 grit on here, didn't change out the battery. I did switch out from the dust bag over to the dust collector. But what's really nice about this sander, and I'll show you this here, this kind of curve in this live edge where it gets really tight, kind of a tight corner. The sander, I was using the contour pad. It got in there great. And what I was previously using was a 5-inch Craftsman disc sander. I love that sander, nothing wrong with it, but it would not get in that corner like this sander did. If you want to take your live edge woodworking to the next level, this sander will help you. One more thing about the contour pad that's really nice is if you're ever doing a project, maybe on a cutting board or a charcuterie board, and you want to take off the corner, like the edge profile of the board, but you don't want to do like a full 1/4 inch roundover or whatever, this will, once again, shave off a corner, a sharp corner, really, really well, really quickly, without you having to run your sander back and forth. I've had to do that before as well. Nothing wrong with that. This just makes that process much easier. Before I give you my final thoughts on this sander, I want you to know that on this channel, I love woodworking tools and really all kind of power tools. And so I'm always reviewing them on the channel. I'm also always looking for great tool deals. And what I have done over the last couple of years as I've had this YouTube channel, I've built some relationships with some hardware stores, some different brands that they send me their best deals. I keep track of their best deals. And then I compile that in one email list that you can sign up for. It's totally free. If you're interested in signing up for my tool deal email list, there's gonna be a link down in the description. Check that out. Totally no pressure. If you're not interested in that, we'll keep going with the video. Y'all, this sander really blew me away. If you're looking for a sander that's got really, really solid dust collection, it's got great battery life, even with just a 3 amp hour battery, and it's got all the other really nice features like the contour pad that's gonna make this amazing for detail work, and like the variable speed, both on the trigger and the different settings, so you can do this for different sanding applications. Not to mention just a sander that's very lightweight, very comfortable in the hands. This is a great option, especially if you're already on the M12 fuel platform like I was. If you're interested in picking one up, I'll leave a link down in the description. But before you do that, I want to let you know that if you are wanting to look more into Milwaukee tools or invest in Milwaukee tools, before you buy any more Milwaukee tools, you need to watch this video right here, because I do a deep dive on everything that I wish I knew before I got on the Milwaukee platform, whether it's M12 or M18. So check out this video. Can't wait to see you right over here.